A Polish soldier cradles his monkey mascot aboard a Royal Navy destroyer bound for Tobruk. He serves with the Polish Independent Carpathian Rifles, a unit formed in 1940 in French-ruled Syria from exiled troops after Poland fell. Led by General Stanisław Kapański, they fought with distinction in North Africa. Mascots like this boosted morale at sea. On the road into Darwin, soldiers pause for a photo in knee-deep mud. The town was small and poorly equipped, yet vital for defending northern Australia. Nearby, new RAN and RAAF bases guarded the Arafura Sea. Before long, Japanese raids would test these routes and the men who kept them open. German soldiers pause at a fresh grave, helmets in hand. The cross holds a comrade's name and a field helmet. Scenes like this were common. About 5.5 million German soldiers died in the war, and up to 9 million Germans overall. A British officer points to a rough map of Europe, briefing troops for Operation Overlord. It is June 1944, and the Channel is their road to France. The invasion was delayed one day for the weather. These men will land on Normandy's beaches at dawn, part of the largest seaborne assault in history. Neighbors crowd a long table under fluttering flags, one of thousands of VE Day street parties. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered, and church bells rang again. Food was still rationed, yet families pooled sugar, eggs, and jam for cakes. On the eve of D-Day, the Allied Supreme Commander rallies paratroopers of the 101st Airborne. Faces darkened for the night jump, gear loaded, they listen in a tight circle. These screaming eagles would drop into Normandy hours before the beach landings, seizing roads and bridges to clear the way. A German reconnaissance platoon rolls down a quiet French road on bicycles, rifles slung and helmets on. Fuel was scarce, engines loud, and bikes solved both problems. Armies across Europe used them for patrols and messages. Next to horses, the bicycle became the most common transport for soldiers in the war's final months. A reinforcement truck sinks into a flooded track on the way to Darwin. Tropical rains turn northern roads into swamps, slowing every convoy. Weeks later, 188 Japanese aircraft would strike the port in 2 raids, the largest attack on Australian soil. Crews like this wrestled vehicles free, then kept driving north to the fight. German soldiers share a rare light moment, teasing a sleeping comrade in a field car. The year is 1940, when the Wehrmacht's blitzkrieg rolled through Denmark, Norway, the Low Countries, and France. Many in scenes like this were teenagers. Their new mechanized army moved faster than any in Europe's history. Children step off trains into East Anglia, clutching cases and gas mask boxes. It's September 1st, 1939, the day Germany invaded Poland, and Britain began mass evacuations. The UK declared war 2 days later. Operation Pied Piper moved more than 1 million children to the countryside within weeks, separating families to keep them safe. German troops rest while escorting French prisoners near Maine, June 1940. The rapid Battle of France lasted just 6 weeks. Germany used fast armor, aircraft, and radios to split Allied lines. About 1.5 million French soldiers were taken prisoner. Western land fighting paused here until the Allied return at Normandy in 1944. Flames pour from a farmhouse as German soldiers rush from cover, chased by Allied fire. In occupied France, air raids were constant. A U.S. survey later found that 21.8% of all Allied bombs dropped in Europe fell here. With the Luftwaffe fading, ground units learned to move fast or be caught in the open. Flying Officer Leonard Ace Haynes rests on his Spitfire Mark I at Falmere. He flew with number 19 Squadron in the Battle of Britain and is credited with 6 enemy aircraft. Born in 1919, he joined the RAF in 1937. After the battle, he trained new pilots, but later died in a flying accident in West London. Black smoke boils over Darwin's shoreline as oil tanks burn after the Japanese air raids. 2 waves, 188 aircraft, struck the port and airfields, sinking ships and wrecking wharves. It was the largest attack on Australia by a foreign power and caused the nation's worst wartime death toll. The city burned for days. Under a bright Pacific sky, sailors service a Grumman TBM Avenger. Ordnancemen clean and test the .50 caliber guns, including the turret weapon. The Avenger was the U.S. Navy's rugged torpedo bomber, flown from carriers in 1944 to 45. One young Avenger pilot was future President George H.W. Bush, shot down over Chichijima, June 6, 1944. Inside a Higgins boat, American soldiers crowd the ramp as Omaha Beach comes into view. Smoke rises from the bluffs ahead. Many are from the 1st and 29th Infantry Divisions. Omaha was one of 5 landing zones and the costliest of the day. Hidden under a cover of branches, a German MG-34 team checks the belt and sights. Heavy machine gun squads usually had 6 men, gunner, loader, and carriers for ammo and a tripod. The MG-34 was famous for smooth firing and quick barrel changes, but it was expensive and slow to build, limiting how many units received it. Mud clings to the boots of 101st Airborne paratroopers as they circle a shattered Waco glider in Dutch Fields, August 18, 1944. Many gliders broke apart on landing. Some carried medics, guns, or jeeps. These men, likely of the 501 PIR, landed behind German lines during Operation Market Garden. This crash cost lives. Mud swallows his boots as a Sherman crewman picks his way past the house, while his tank idles and sinks by inches. Autumn rains turned German farmyards into traps, clogging tracks and stalling columns. The M4 Sherman, America's most produced tank, could outpace roads, but not this muck, so crews often hauled tools and rations on foot. American and Soviet soldiers crowd together in Grebo, Germany, celebrating victory in 1945. Weeks earlier, on 25th of April, the armies met on the Elbe near Torgau, a handshake that split Nazi Germany in two. Grins and nerves mix at RAF Harwell on the 5th of June, 1944. Pathfinders of the 22nd Independent Parachute Company clutch their toy mascot, Pegasus, the emblem of British airborne forces. Hours later, they would jump first into Normandy, marking drop zones for the invasion. Many were barely in their 20s. Beachgoers watch a giant shape slide over the sea, the German airship Graf Zeppelin. It cruised close to Britain in 1931, years before war. The Zeppelin was a passenger craft that also served propaganda tours and stretched longer than 2 football fields. Its quiet shadow hinted at threats soon to come. A family peers into a fresh Anderson shelter in Fenham, Newcastle. The hut is corrugated steel, half buried and covered with earth to stop blasts. Most were built in back gardens and held 6 people. Britain issued over 2 million by 1941, free to low-income households, and they saved countless lives during raids. Arm in arm, an American G1 and his British bride smile for a wedding photo. Wartime love was common in 1944. Thousands married between air raids and postings. After victory, about 60,000 British war brides sailed to the United States. Many traveled on troop ships, carrying one suitcase and big hopes for a new home. Scraped and torn, a consolidated liberator of RAF number. 70 Squadron limps home after a daylight strike on Monfalcone in 1945. It wasn't enemy flak, but a bomb from a higher formation, friendly fire that blasted away the mid-upper turret's perspex. Pilot Wally Lewis remembered watching it fall, growing larger, then smashing the fuselage. An American infantryman sights along his M1 Garand from a shallow foxhole, steady behind roots and mud. The M1 was a semi-automatic rifle with an 8-round clip that ejected with a sharp ping. The United States was the only nation to issue such a rifle to most soldiers, giving them faster shots under fire. Stripped to underwear and steel helmets, a German gun crew readies an 88mm. The weapon, designed for anti-aircraft fire, became Germany's most feared tank killer, knocking out armor at over a mile. In the heat and rush of a hidden forest position, clothing is a luxury. Speed and aim matter. Men of the 8th Battalion, Lancashire Fusiliers, Territorial Army lounge on kit bags while a banjo and harmonica keep time. Britain was in the early, phony war, yet violence smoldered elsewhere and Europe braced for more. These TA volunteers would soon mobilize for home defense and, for many, service overseas. Villagers crowd a newly dug public air raid trench in Burnham Norton, Norfolk, 1938. Britain began building shelters before the war came, after a crisis in Europe. Trenches were narrow and often zigzagged to limit blast. When sirens sounded, families hurried underground here. Thousands of similar shelters appeared across towns and fields that year. Leningrad, 1943. Two schoolgirls assemble PPH-41 submachine guns, part of the city's desperate war effort during the 872-day siege. Cut off since September 1941, Leningrad endured starvation, while many children escaped via the Road of Life over Lake Ladoga. Kursk, summer 1943. A German soldier pauses for a drink, an iron cross at his neck, as the Eastern Front grinds on. The battle around Kursk in July to August became the largest tank clash and the first time a major German offensive failed to pierce defenses. Teenage soldiers of the 12th SS Panzer Division, recruited from Hitler Youth born in 1926, crawl through tall grass to fight British forces. The unit earned a brutal reputation, committing war crimes against civilians and prisoners. It served on both fronts and first saw combat near Caen on the 7th of June 1944, the day after D-Day. Australian soldiers posed by a truck at the Howard River, stringing a line of fresh fish after a rare break from duty. Moments like this kept morale alive around Darwin after the 1942 air raids. Troops camped along the river often caught barramundi and mullet, sharing meals before returning to patrols and repairs. Ebensee, Austria, May 8, 1945. A newly liberated prisoner sits on the ground, starved after months in the SS camp built to dig tunnel stores for weapons. From 1943 to 45, 27,278 men were held here. 8,500 to 11,000 died, mostly from hunger. U.S. Army military police crouch on a hillside holding rations on long sticks to toast them over fresh lava from Mount Vesuvius. Ash boils into the sky near Naples. The 1944 eruption wrecked nearby Allied airfields and forced evacuations. Luftwaffe Major Clemens Graf von Schoenborn-Wiesentide strides through a field, Cape Open. An experienced dive bomber officer and aristocrat, he led St. G-77 and later Air Command Arid in the Balkans. On the 30th of August 1944, while heading to a staff meeting in Sofia, his plane crashed and he died. They stretch out on Mindel Beach, boots off, sun on their backs. This is a rare calm for troops stationed near Darwin. In 1942, the city suffered Australia's largest air raids. Between drills and repairs, men came here to swim and sleep, knowing sirens could call them back at any moment. German soldiers passed through a village in flames on the Eastern Front. From June 1941 to May 1945, this front stretched from the Baltic to the Balkans and caused most of World War II's deaths, about 30 million. Fighting was relentless, with mass deportations and camps nearby. Walls torn open at the Don Hotel show how hard the raids hit Darwin. Windows are blown out. Soldiers have painted grim jokes on the plaster, Hotel de Blitz. Before the attack, about 2,000 civilians were evacuated. Afterward, panic spread, and roughly half the remaining population fled the city. Soviet soldiers stand on a shattered bunker, the red flag lifted high. This is the Regenwurmlager near Meseritz, part of the German Ostwall. A muzzle flash lights the night as a 3.7-centimeter PK-36 fires at a Soviet position in East Karelia, October 20th, 1943. The light gun, nicknamed the Door Knocker for its poor effect on tanks, still served in forests as infantry support. Finland kept independence after the Winter War, but lost Karelia. Two Dutch soldiers fire from a brush-lined trench at Grebbeberg, May 1940. This fight was part of Germany's Fallgelb offensive. The invasion began at 3:55 on May 10th. The German 207th Infantry Division aimed to seize the ridge in a day. Dutch resistance lasted 3, but the line finally broke. Bundled in flight gear, a B-24 Liberator gunner stands before his bomber's Nosart, 1944. The B-24 was America's most built heavy bomber, serving the Army, Navy, and Allies from Europe to the Pacific. Fast and long-ranged for its day, it was soon eclipsed by newer, longer-range pressurized bombers like the B-29. SS Viking troops ride a Marder II tank destroyer on the Eastern Front. Their division was unusual. Many volunteers came from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, the Netherlands, and Belgium, led by German officers. The Marder's long 75mm gun hunted Soviet armor. After years of fighting, Viking surrendered to U.S. forces in Austria in 1945. Two U.S. infantrymen steal a quiet smoke in the snow, helmets rimed with frost, and M1 rifles resting by their knees. The place is unknown, but scenes like this were common in the winter campaigns, especially the Ardennes. GIs often received cigarette rations, a small comfort between patrols and firefights. On a muddy Italian hillside in 1944, a U.S. GI lights a Gurkha's cigar. The moment feels calm, even friendly. Gurkhas, elite soldiers from Nepal, were famed for courage and their kukri knives. The Italian campaign drew fighters from many nations, and scenes like this showed that shared grit crossed borders. In Tunisia's sands, January 1943, French SAS troopers paused beside local guides after linking the British 1st and 8th Armies near Gabes-Tozeur. These men began as Free French paratroopers. Major David Sterling folded them into the growing SAS. Operating from jeeps at night, they raided airfields and supply lines across the desert. Under the burning desert sun, a Polish soldier rides a gun jeep, the long ammo belt snaking toward his machine gun. Thousands of exiled Poles joined the British after 1939, forming units like the Carpathian Brigade. In 1941–42, they fought across Egypt and Libya, most famously at Tobruk, earning a fierce reputation in North Africa. Built between the 1920s and 1940s, it hid over 20 miles of tunnels, about 50 blockhouses, and its own rail stations. Sandbags shake as a Vickers machine gun spits rounds above Darwin. Australian defenders had few heavy weapons here. 16 QF 3.7-inch and 2 3-inch guns for high-altitude raids, plus scattered Lewis guns for low flyers. The Vickers, water-cooled and reliable, covered troops as Japanese aircraft made repeated attacks. Hedgerows hide a German anti-tank gun as a 3-man crew readies another round. The shield barely covers them. The barrel tracks the road where Allied armor will appear. Crews like this ambushed tanks at crossroads and orchard edges, trying to slow the push inland after D-Day. A hand-painted sign on a post reads, "Hellfire Corner, let 'em all come," marking an Allied gun position outside Darwin. During the 1942 raids, more bombs fell on Darwin than at Pearl Harbor, with heavier civilian deaths and more ships sunk. Defenders name places like this to steady nerves and guide crews. Imola Airfield, Finland, July 2, 1944. German mechanic service fighters as a formation passes overhead. Imola was a Finnish Air Force base. Adolf Hitler flew here on the 4th of June 1942 to greet Marshal C.G.E. Mannerheim on his 75th birthday. Finland fought alongside Germany against the USSR and relied on German food, fuel, and arms. A London taxi becomes a fighting post as Home Guard volunteers point rifles skyward. These part-time defenders were often too young or too old for regular service. Rifles could not reach high bombers, but they might scare off low-flying aircraft and spot targets. In the Blitz, anything with wheels was pressed into duty. Hidden in a shallow trench, a German soldier aims a Panzerschreck, a shoulder-fired anti-tank rocket. The launcher was about 5 feet long and 20 pounds, nicknamed Ofenrohr, stovepipe, for the cloud of smoke it produced. Crews had to fire and move fast, or the backblast would expose them to advancing Allied armor and infantry. Captain Yuri Belov and Lieutenant Nikolai Davydenko stand above the Champs-Élysées in ROA uniforms in Paris, 1943. They organized pro-ROA meetings across occupied Europe, often without Wehrmacht approval. Belov was a Russian émigré and Paris taxi driver before the war. Davydenko had served in the Red Army before joining the Russian Liberation Army. Smoke pours from a shattered house as a German crew scrambles to load their field gun. Shells lie in the dust. A spotter scans for targets. By early 1944, many units received no real replacements after heavy losses. Veterans knew what that meant. The line would thin, positions would fall, and the war was turning against them. A young soldier, a woman volunteer, and a sailor stand with rifles and new medals for the defense of Leningrad. They helped hold the city through 872 days of siege and hunger. Supplies came by the Road of Life over Lake Ladoga. More than 1 million people earned this medal for their part in the defense. British glider troops secure the Caen Canal Bridge as part of Operation Deadstick. Airspeed Horsa gliders lie smashed in the fields beyond, silent delivery for the Ox and Bucks light infantry. Seizing this span and the nearby Orne Bridge blocked German counterattacks toward the beaches. Afterward, the site took a new name, Pegasus Bridge. 4 members of the Darwin Mobile Force pose in shorts and smiles beneath a hand-painted sign. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here. It is Northern Australia, 1942, quiet for the moment. Days later, Japanese aircraft will bomb Darwin in the largest attack on Australia. And these easy moments will end. Picking through twisted metal at Grave, Holland, leading aircraftman R.P. Coulson strips the guns from a wrecked RCAF Spitfire. A low-flying Luftwaffe Raider dropped a fragmentation bomb in a hit-and-run attack March 1945. Salvaging weapons mattered. Each Spitfire's wing held multiple guns, and parts could keep other fighters in the air. Men from the Norwich City Engineers Decontamination Squad pose with masks and danger gas signs. Britain feared poison gas raids, so every town trained teams like this to wash streets, seal buildings, and test the air. Millions of gas masks were issued to civilians. The attacks never came, but the drills were constant. Sergeant George A. Kaufman of the U.S. Ninth Army swaps an Adolf Hitler Strasse sign for a hand-painted Roosevelt Boulevard. Krefeld had been devastated by a 1943 firestorm and was entered by U.S. troops 6 days earlier, spring 1945. Young German grenadiers marched through a town, greatcoats heavy, each carrying a Panzerfaust. The weapon was cheap and disposable, but deadly only at short range, about 30 meters, so crews had to creep close to enemy tanks. Many of these fighters were teenagers, drafted in the war's final months as the Reich collapsed. Men in suits stand shoulder to shoulder, trying on wartime gas masks during a civil defense demo. Britain feared gas raids after World War I, so more than 30 million masks were issued to civilians. In halls like this, instructors taught sealing, filter checks, and calm breathing, training everyone from bankers to bakers. A small boy sits on the ruins of his London home, clutching his teddy. The Blitz brought months of night raids in 1940 to 41. Thousands of children were evacuated, but many like him stayed with family. Toys often survived when houses did not, and they became anchors of comfort in the smoke and dust. Resting on the tarmac, 101st Airborne Screaming Eagles wait beside a CG-4 Waco glider, its chalked joke reading, "Look, no motor." Moments later, they'll launch for Operation Market Garden, September 1944. These gliders carried infantry, jeeps, and supplies into Holland, landing in rough fields to seize bridges for the Allied advance. North Africa, 1941. 5 Luftwaffe officers crowd into a staff car, sunglasses and tropical uniforms on. Their job? Keep Rommel's Afrika Korps supplied with air cover and strikes across the desert. The Luftwaffe fought here from 1941 to 1943. On an Okinawa hillside, a Marine kneels beside his brother, palm to forehead, offering water and quiet words. Moments earlier, they watched a friend die. The Battle of Okinawa lasted 82 days and became the Pacific's costliest fight. Families sometimes served together, and scenes like this were common: grief, care, and endurance. Faces stern, helmets marked with a white W, Britain's air raid wardens sit for a portrait. These volunteers enforced blackouts, guided people to shelters, sounded gas warnings, and reported bomb damage. Every local council raised its own ARP teams: wardens, messengers, ambulance crews, and rescue parties, linking civilians with police and fire brigades during the Blitz. Night gathers at RAF Harwell. 4 Pathfinder commanders of the 22nd Independent Parachute Company huddle beneath an Albemarle, sinking watches before liftoff. It's 11:30 p.m., 5th June 1944. In hours, they will jump ahead of the main force, mark drop zones for the British 6th Airborne, and open the way for D-Day. A lone elderly woman crosses a street of rubble. Behind her, a church lies open to the sky, and German tanks sit burned out. Late in the war, Allied air power ruled the day. With little Luftwaffe cover, German armor suffered heavy losses and often moved only at night to survive. American soldiers moved through a shattered street in Messina, Sicily, rifles ready. Dust still hangs after the bombardment that forced Axis troops to flee across the strait. The Sicily campaign opened the way to the invasion of mainland Italy weeks later. Danish resistance fighters smile over a captured street, their armbands and seized weapons showing who rules now. Germany had occupied neutral Denmark since April 1940. About 3,000 Danes died under occupation, and over 1,000 Danish merchant sailors were lost serving the Allies. Many volunteers also fought and died on the Eastern Front with German units. Senior Sergeant Nina Scherschneva smiles from a trench. She was barely out of her teens, yet she carried 25 wounded soldiers to safety during the battles on the Crimean and Kerch peninsulas. Medics like her moved under fire without weapons, guided by bandages and courage. Many lives owe her those runs. Steam rises from tin cups as a YMCA mobile canteen serves tea to tired workers and wardens. These vans roamed bombed streets, offering drinks, snacks, and comfort after raids. Britain fielded hundreds of canteens across cities and airfields. Behind these small moments of care stood the deadliest conflict in history: tens of millions lost. Soldiers of the Polish Independent Highland Brigade raised 2 fingers in oath. Formed in France in 1939 after Poland fell, the 5,000-strong unit trained for mountain warfare and took its name from Podhale. Led by General Zygmunt Szyszko Bohuch, they later defended Brittany. Survivors were evacuated to Britain and Egypt or joined the French resistance. Children line up to leave the city, tags on coats and pillowcases with their names. Each carries a small gas mask box and a few clothes. This was Operation Pied Piper, Britain's mass evacuation. In 1939 alone, more than 1 million children were sent to the countryside to escape bombing.